Close your eyes. The day is behind you now. Every conversation, every demand, every task that was finished, and every one that wasn't. All of it is behind you. And what is behind you doesn't need to be carried into this room, into this dark, into this night. You can set it down, right here, right now. What is being asked of you in this moment is the simplest thing, and sometimes the hardest: to rest, to receive the rest that the night offers, to let the dark be gentle, to let your body do what it has always known how to do. There is a story I want to tell you tonight. It is a quiet story, not a story of armies or plagues or seas parting. A story of two women, of roads walked together, of loyalty that survived loss, of fields and harvest, and a kindness so deliberate it changed the trajectory of everything. It is a story about what faithfulness looks like when it has no guarantee of reward. And it is a story about how new beginnings arrive, not with announcement but with the slow, patient accumulation of ordinary faithful days. It begins in a place called Moab, with grief, but it ends. It always ends somewhere much better than where it began. And tonight, as you follow these two women from loss toward restoration, I hope something in their story finds the place in you that needs to hear it most. Settle in. Let your breath find its own pace. In and out. The story is beginning, and you have nowhere else to be. Naomi. Her name meant pleasant, sweet, the kind of name that carries an expectation of how a life will go. Warmly, generously, with enough of the good things to make the word pleasant feel accurate. She had been pleasant once. She would tell you that herself. Later, with the particular honesty of a woman who had stopped pretending that things were other than they were. But that was before the famine that had emptied Bethlehem of its abundance, before the decision to leave her husband Elimelech, herself, their two sons Mahlon and Chilion, to go to Moab, a foreign land, not their people, not their customs, but a place where there was food, where the famine hadn't reached, where a family could survive. They survived, and then they stayed. Years passed. The sons married Moabite women. Orpah, who was kind and good, and Ruth, who was quiet and steady and who had a quality of presence that made the room feel more settled. When she entered it, it was not a bad life. It was simply a life. The ordinary texture of days in a foreign place. Getting to know its rhythms. learning its language, finding the markets and the neighbors and the patterns that make any place feel, eventually, like somewhere you belong. And then Elimelech died, and then Mahlon, and then Chilion. 3 losses, one after another, across years, each one arriving after the previous one had been absorbed but never fully healed. Naomi was left with 2 daughters-in-law in a foreign country, with nothing that she had come to Moab was still intact. Not her husband, not her sons, not the family that had been the sheep of her life. Just herself and 2 young women who were technically free to go, who had their whole lives ahead of them, who had futures that Naomi, in her grief, could not imagine being part of. This is where the story begins. Not in triumph, not in the green field of a new beginning, in the wreckage of a life that had not gone the way it was supposed to go, in the middle of a loss that doesn't fully make sense, and doesn't fully resolve, and doesn't fully heal no matter how much time passes. If you know this place, the middle of a loss that has left things looking different than they should, this story is for you. And what comes next is for you too. Stay with it. Naomi decided to go home. She had heard that the famine in Bethlehem was over, that the Lord had visited his people and given them bread again. And something in her, something that grief had not been able to extinguish, some homing instinct that remained even after everything else had changed, turned toward Bethlehem. Home. Not the home she had left with a husband and 2 sons. A different home now. The home of before. Returned to, but as a different person. As someone the years and the losses had remade into something she barely recognized. She told her daughters-in-law to go back to their own mother's houses. "Let me go alone," she said. "You have your whole lives ahead of you. Go back to your people. Find new husbands. Build new lives. I have nothing left to give you. The hand of the Lord has gone out against me." That phrase, the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. This is a woman in the full weight of her grief speaking, not a theological statement, not a measured assessment. The words of someone for whom faith and pain have become so tangled that she can't separate them, who believes deeply enough in God to be angry at him, who has not walked away from the relationship, but who stands in it in the posture of someone who has been hurt by it. This is honest. This is real. And it is in the scripture. Not edited out, not softened, not corrected by a narrator. There it is. Naomi's raw, unfiltered, grief-soaked theology the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. If you have ever felt that way, if you have ever stood in your own loss and felt not just the absence of good things, but the specific weight of feeling that something larger than circumstance was involved, you are in good company tonight. Naomi felt it, and God did not strike her down for feeling it. He was patient. He was working in ways she could not yet see from where she was standing. He is patient with you too. Whatever the shape of your own honest grief, whatever the words of it, He is patient, and He is working in ways you may not yet be able to see from where you're standing. Rest in that tonight. Even in the loss, even in the honest words, He is patient. He is working, and the road home is real. Orpah kissed Naomi and went back. This is not a criticism. The text does not criticize her. She did what was reasonable. She did what was practical. She did what Naomi had told her to do. What any sensible person in her situation would do. She had a future in Moab. She had family there. She had the possibility of a new life. She kissed Naomi, and she went back. And Ruth held on. The text says she clung to her. The same word used in Genesis when a man leaves his father and mother and clings to his wife. A word that means more than staying beside. A word that means attaching yourself, choosing to not be separated. Ruth clung to Naomi, and Naomi, still in the full weight of her grief, still trying to push her away for her own good, said, "Look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. Go back after her." And Ruth said something that has been spoken at weddings and funerals and in quiet rooms of commitment for thousands of years. She said, "Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go I will go, and where you lodge I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also if anything but death parts me from you. Where you go, I will go." These are not the words of obligation, not the words of someone fulfilling a duty. These are the words of someone who has made a choice that goes beyond what is required, beyond what is practical, beyond what any reasonable calculation of self-interest would produce. Ruth chose Naomi, not because Naomi had anything to offer. She had already told her she had nothing. Not because the road ahead looked promising. It looked like hardship. Not because Moab to Bethlehem was an easy journey for a young woman following a grieving old one. It wasn't. Ruth chose Naomi because something in her, something that looked at this woman in her loss, and her honesty, and her broken open grief, and said, "This is where I belong. This is the person I stay with, whatever it costs." Love, at its truest, looks like this. Not the love that stays when staying is easy. Not the love that remains while things are good. The love that clings. That says, "Where you go, I will go." That stays when the practical calculation says leave. Ruth had this love. And Naomi, who had lost so much, had not lost this. She still had Ruth. She didn't know yet what that meant, but it was enough, more than enough, even when it didn't look like it. If you have someone like Ruth in your life, someone who has clung when they could have gone back, let that be what you hold tonight before you sleep. Not the losses, the one who stayed. Let that be what your heart rests on, in the dark, in the quiet, the one who stayed. The road from Moab to Bethlehem. It was not a short journey. Scholars estimate somewhere between 50 and 80 miles, depending on the route, through terrain that was not gentle, rocky, hilly, the kind of landscape that requires attention and energy and the willingness to simply keep putting one foot in front of the other even when the foot is tired. Two women, walking, not talking much. Perhaps. There are kinds of companionship that don't require words, that find their expression in the steady presence of another person beside you, in the shared rhythm of footsteps on a road, in the knowledge, not stated, simply present, that you are not doing this alone. Naomi leading the way. Perhaps. She knew Bethlehem. She had come from there. The road was in her memory even if the person who had walked it with her before was gone. Ruth following, watching, learning the terrain through Naomi's body, where she slowed, where she sped up, what made her stop, and look at something she hadn't expected to see. They rested when they needed to rest. They walked when the walking was possible. They arrived, eventually, at Bethlehem. When they arrived, the whole town was stirred because of them. "Is this Naomi?" the women asked. And Naomi said, "Do not call me Naomi. Call me Mara," which means bitter. For the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty. I went away full. I came back empty. This is one of the most honest things anyone in the Bible says. Not dressed up, not managed. The flat truth of a loss that she was not going to pretend was something other than what it was. I came back empty, and yet she had Ruth. She just wasn't counting Ruth yet. Grief does that sometimes. Makes us unable to count what we still have. Because what we've lost is so present, so loud, so demanding of attention that everything else becomes invisible in its shadow. Naomi called herself empty when she had Ruth beside her. Ruth, who had left everything. Ruth, who had clung. Ruth, who was about to change everything. Tonight, whatever you are counting is empty in your own life. Is there something beside you that you haven't been counting? Not to minimize the loss. The loss is real. But beside the loss, is there a Ruth? Something or someone that stayed when everything else left. That is still here. That is, in ways you may not have fully seen yet, about to change everything. Let your heart be open to it. Even tonight, even in the dark, the town asked, "Is this Naomi?" And the answer, the fuller answer than Naomi could give herself in that moment, was yes. And she brought Ruth with her. And that was the beginning of everything. They arrived at the beginning of the barley harvest. The text places this detail carefully, deliberately. The beginning of the barley harvest. The time of year when fields that had been bare all winter begin to produce. When the work of planting, done in faith, months before, with no guarantee of outcome, reveals whether the ground accepted what was given to it. Harvest time, new beginning time, and Ruth, on the very first day after their arrival, said to Naomi, "Let me go to the fields and glean among the ears of grain after him in whose sight I shall find favor." Gleaning. This was the practice described in the law of Moses, that landowners were not to harvest the edges of their fields, and were not to go back for what was missed. The edges and the leftovers were to be left for the poor, for the widow, for the stranger. Ruth was all three: a poor woman, a widow, a stranger in a foreign land. Bethlehem was not her home. These were not her people. This was not her custom. But she went, not knowing whose field she would end up in. The text says she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz. Happened to. Two of the quietest words in the whole story. She happened to. But nothing in this story happens by accident. And those who have read it carefully across thousands of years have always understood that the happening to was a leading, a gentle, invisible steering. Ruth didn't know where to go. She went, and where she went turned out to be exactly where she needed to be. The happen to moments in your own life. The ones that looked like coincidence. The job that came through a conversation you almost didn't have. The person you met because of a plan that fell through and left you somewhere unexpected. The door that opened in the wall where there didn't used to be a door. Happened to. The invisible hand that steers without announcing itself. That leads without forcing. That places you in the right field without explaining why this field rather than any other. Tonight, in the dark, in the quiet, on the edge of sleep, let the happen to moments in your own story come to mind. Not all of them, just one. One time when you happened to, and where you happened to turned out to be exactly where you needed to be. Hold it. That is the same hand that led Ruth to Boaz's field, and it has not stopped steering. Even now, even tonight. Sleep now, and trust the happen to of tomorrow. The field is already chosen. You only have to go. Boaz. He enters the story the way important people often enter stories. Quietly, without fanfare, doing an ordinary thing. He came from Bethlehem to the field to check on the harvest. He greeted his workers. He noticed the young woman gleaming at the edges. He asked his foreman who she was. She is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. And Boaz went to Ruth. Listen to me, daughter. Do not go to glean in another field. Stay here close to my young women. I have charged the young men not to touch you. And when you are thirsty, go and drink from what the young men have drawn. She fell on her face and bowed to the ground. Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner? And Boaz said, all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me. How you left your father and mother and your native land and came to a people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Under whose wings you have come to take refuge. This phrase, let it settle. Boaz was a wealthy man, a landowner, someone with authority in Bethlehem. He didn't have to notice Ruth. He didn't have to say anything to her beyond the ordinary instructions he would give any gleaner. He could have let her work at the edges of his field and gone about his business. Instead, he saw her. He knew her story. Someone had told him, and what he knew about her. Not her beauty, not her status, not anything that a culture of status would have valued, was her loyalty, her faithfulness, what she had done for Naomi. He saw that, and he honored it. And then he named something about her that she may not have named about herself. You have come to take refuge under God's wings. Ruth was a Moabite woman in a foreign field, trying to gather enough grain to feed herself and her mother-in-law, uncertain of her welcome, uncertain of her future, uncertain of almost everything. And Boaz looked at her situation and named what it actually was. She had come to take refuge, not just in Bethlehem, not just under Boaz's protection, under God's wings, the same wings that cover the Psalms, the same wings that appear in Psalm 91. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge, the image of something enormous and strong, bending down to cover something small and vulnerable, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Tonight, wherever you are, whatever brought you here, whatever your story looks like right now, you are under those wings, not metaphorically, not as a comforting idea. Really, the wings that covered Ruth in a foreign field cover you in this room. The same God, the same wings, the same refuge. You are not exposed tonight. You are covered. Let that be real. Let it reach the parts of you that still feel exposed. You are under his wings, and it is safe here. Rest. Boaz told his young men to deliberately leave grain for her. This is one of the quietest miracles in the whole story. Not a sea parting, not a voice from a burning bush, not an angel appearing with a message, just a man telling his workers, when you're bundling the sheaves, pull some out and leave them on purpose. Let her find them. Don't rebuke her for taking them. Deliberate abundance, arranged invisibly, left for someone who didn't know it was being arranged. Ruth went home that evening and showed Naomi what she had gathered, far more than a normal gleaner could have collected in a day. Naomi was startled. "Where did you glean today? Who noticed you?" Ruth told her, and Naomi, for the first time since the losses, for the first time in the story, where her voice carries something other than grief, said, "May he be blessed by the Lord, whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead." Something shifted in her, not the grief lifting. Grief doesn't lift all at once, but something is opening, some small window of light, the recognition that something good was happening, that the hand that she had felt going out against her was also, quietly, in a field at the edges, arranging for her. And then she said something that reveals she knows exactly who Boaz is. The man is a close relative of ours, one of our redeemers, a redeemer. In the ancient Hebrew law, there was a provision for the protection of families who had lost their male members through death, through poverty, through the various disasters that can befall people in any era. A close male relative, a kinsman, could act as a redeemer, could buy back land that had been sold, could marry the widow of a dead relative to preserve the family line. Naomi knew. She had known who Boaz was, but she hadn't said anything because she hadn't been ready to hope yet. Because hope, after what she'd been through, was a dangerous thing to feel, because the distance between where they were and where they would need to be for any of this to work was enormous. But something in her was beginning to believe again. Just beginning. Just a crack of light. If you have been through a season where hope felt too dangerous to feel, where the distance between where you are and where you would need to be felt too great to measure, you know Naomi in this moment. And if you are in that season right now, hear this. The grain is being arranged. The sheaves are being deliberately left. The Redeemer is already in the story. You may not be able to see the shape of it yet, but the arrangement is real. The kindness has not forsaken you. Let that be a crack of light tonight. Just a crack. It is enough. Rest. And let the arrangement continue while you sleep. Ruth went back to the fields, day after day, through the barley harvest, and then through the wheat harvest, following the young women of Boaz's household, gleaning at the edges of what was abundant, grateful for what was left. This is the part of the story that is easy to skip over in the telling. The ordinary days. The showing up. The doing the thing that needed to be done today without knowing how the larger story would resolve. Ruth didn't know she was going to marry Boaz. She didn't know she was going to become the great-grandmother of King David. She didn't know her name would be in a genealogy that stretched all the way to Bethlehem and a manger 2,000 years later. She just went to the field every morning and gleaned. This is what faithfulness looks like from the inside, before you can see it from the outside. From the outside, it looks like the setup for something extraordinary. From the inside, it looks like another day in the same field doing the same work. From the inside, it feels ordinary, repetitive, sometimes discouraging. The question of whether anything is actually building probably came and went in Ruth's mind more than once. But she went, day after day, through the barley, through the wheat, the ordinary faithful days. And those days were the story, not just the preparation for the story. The story of a woman who showed up, who kept going, who did the thing in front of her without knowing what it was building toward. If you are in the ordinary days right now, the days that don't feel significant, that don't feel like they're building toward anything, that feel like another day in the same field. You are in the story, not the waiting room for it. The story. Every faithful ordinary day is a day of the story. And who knows, whoever knows, from the inside of an ordinary day, what the ordinary day is building toward. Ruth didn't know, but she went, and the story was being written. Tonight, let your ordinary faithful day be received as what it is. Part of the story, a real and significant part, and sleep, so you can go to the field tomorrow, whatever your field is, so you can go. One evening, Naomi told Ruth a plan. Boaz will be winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Wash therefore and anoint yourself, and put on your cloak, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. And so Ruth went. The threshing floor at night. This is a vulnerable moment in the story. A young woman, a foreigner, going in the dark to find a man who has shown her kindness, but has made no promises. She could have said, "This is too uncertain. The outcome is not guaranteed. What if it doesn't work?" She went anyway, and Boaz was startled in the middle of the night to find a woman at his feet. He reached out, and there was a woman. "Who are you?" he asked. And Ruth said, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer. Spread your wings over me." She used the same image Boaz had used when he told her she had come to take refuge under God's wings. She was asking him to be, for her, what God is: the covering, the protection, the one who bends down over the vulnerable with strength. And Boaz said, "May you be blessed by the Lord. My daughter, you have made this last kindness greater than the first, in that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. Your kindness," he called it her kindness. She had come to him to ask for his protection, his redemption, and he called it her kindness because it was. She was offering him something too: her loyalty, her presence, her choosing of him when she could have chosen otherwise. The exchange of kindness. Two people in the dark of the threshing floor, offering each other something real. This is the heart of the whole book of Ruth, not the legal arrangements that will follow, not the formal redemption process at the gate of the city, but this moment, this exchange, this choosing. I am Ruth. Spread your wings over me. May you be blessed by the Lord. Two people with nothing guaranteed except each other's word, making a choice tonight. The people who have spread their wings over you, who has chosen you when they could have chosen otherwise, who have called your coming to them a kindness, who have received you with blessing. Let their faces be the last thing you see before sleep. The people who have been, for you, what Boaz was for Ruth. They are evidence of the kindness that has not forsaken you. They are evidence that the wings are real. Sleep in that. Held in the dark, in the threshing floor of this night, where something real is being exchanged and something real is being prepared. Rest. There was a complication. Of course there was. There is always a complication. Boaz was a redeemer, a close relative, but he was not the closest. There was another man, closer in relation to Naomi's family, who had the first right of redemption. Boaz told Ruth, "There is a redeemer nearer than I. He must have his chance first." In the morning, he went to the gate of the city, the place of legal transactions in the ancient world, and waited for this other man to pass. Called him over, gathered 10 elders of the city as witnesses, and offered the man what was his by right, the land of Elimelech, the chance to redeem Naomi's property. The man said, "I will redeem it." And then Boaz added the rest. "The day you buy the field from the hand of Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead, to perpetuate the name of the dead in his inheritance." And the man changed his mind. "I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I impair my own inheritance. Take my right of redemption yourself." He walked away, and Boaz turned to the elders and the people and said, "You are witnesses. I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and also Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon, I have bought to be my wife." This, the complication resolved, not easily, not without the possibility that it would go the other way, that the nearer Redeemer would have said yes, and Ruth's future would have been in the hands of a man. The story never bothers to name. A man willing to redeem land but not a woman. A man who walked away with his sandal in his hand. The complication resolved. The right one said yes. This is the rhythm of these stories. The complication arrives just when things seem to be resolving. The obstacle appears when the path seems clear. The other Redeemer who almost changed everything. And then it resolves. Not the way fear would have it. Not in the worst case direction. In the direction that the whole story, quietly, has been building toward. The complication resolves. Are you in a complication right now? in the waiting at the gate, watching the nearer Redeemer to see which way he will go. The story is still being written. The complication is not the ending. The other Redeemer walked away, and Boaz said yes. Rest in that tonight. The complication is not the ending. The story knows where it's going, even when you can't see it yet. Sleep. The resolution is coming. It always comes. Ruth and Boaz were married. The text doesn't linger on the wedding. It doesn't describe the ceremony or the celebration in detail. It simply moves forward from the gate to the marriage, from the legal transaction to the life that followed. And the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. A son. The women of the neighborhood, the women of Bethlehem who had watched Naomi return empty, who had heard her rename herself Mara, who had witnessed the grief that had settled over her like weather. These women gathered. Blessed be the Lord, they said. He has not left you this day without a Redeemer, and may his name be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life, and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is more to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him. More to you than 7 sons. 7 was the number of completeness in Hebrew thought. To say Ruth was worth more than 7 sons was to say she was worth more than everything, more than the fullness of what Naomi had lost. The women named the child Obed, and Naomi took the child and laid him on her lap and became his nurse. This image, Naomi, who had lost her husband and both her sons, who had come back empty and renamed herself bitter, who had looked at her life and seen only what was missing. Naomi, holding the child on her lap, the child of Ruth, the grandchild of her heart, the living, breathing evidence that the story was not over, that the line was not broken, that something new had been given. She held him, and the bitterness, not all at once, not completely, but genuinely, began to give way, not because the losses had been undone. They hadn't. Elimelech was still gone. Mahlon and Chilion were still gone. The grief of those losses was still real. But beside the grief, life, new life, real life, held in her arms. Sometimes restoration doesn't look like the reversal of what was lost. It looks like something new is being placed in the space that the loss left. Not a replacement. You can't replace people, but a gift, a new thing, a child on the lap of a woman who thought she had nothing left. Obed, whose name means servant, whose existence was the product of Ruth's faithfulness, and Boaz's kindness, and Naomi's willingness to go home, even when home had nothing to offer. Who would become the father of Jesse? Who would become the father of David? Who would become the ancestor of Jesus? The whole long line of it, beginning here, in a field of harvest, in a threshing floor at night, in a gate where a man made a choice, in the arms of a woman who had called herself empty, the seat of everything, in the arms of Naomi. Hold that tonight. Whatever you have lost, whatever you are holding now that is new, whatever is being placed in the space where something used to be, let the new thing be received, not instead of the grief. Beside it, the arms can hold both. Naomi held both, and the child on her lap was real, and his name would go all the way to Bethlehem, all the way to a manager, all the way to everything. Rest in that. The new thing is real. Let it be held. Let's go back to the field. Before the resolution, before the marriage, and the child, and the women of Bethlehem gathering to bless. Before any of it, the ordinary mornings, Ruth waking before dawn, the way field workers do, the particular quality of early morning air in the Middle East, cool, dry, carrying the smell of grain and dust and the specific freshness that only comes before the heat arrives. She would have dressed, taken whatever she had to carry the gleaned grain, walked to the field in the first light, the field in the early morning before the workers arrived, the long rows of barley, the stalks heavy with grain, heads bent slightly, the light coming in sideways, the way it does in the early morning, golden and low, making everything it touches look more vivid than it will at noon. Ruth is walking to the edge, beginning. There is something about the quality of early morning work that is unlike the work of later in the day. Something clean about it. The world not yet complicated. The task is clear. The hands know what to do. Pick up what was left. Carry it forward. Don't miss what's here. This is, in a sense, the whole instruction for faithful living, dressed up in agricultural terms. Pick up what has been left for you. Carry it forward. Don't miss what's here. The grain that Boaz's workers were deliberately leaving, that abundance arranged without announcement, placed at the edges for the one who would come and find it. It was only useful if Ruth picked it up. She had to bend down. She had to gather. She had to carry what was given. And tonight, there is grain at the edges. There is a provision that has been deliberately arranged. There is an abundance left for you in places you may not have thought to look. You may need to bend down for it. You may need to look at the edges of your ordinary life, the edges that seem like leftovers, like what's been missed, like what wasn't worth the harvester's time, and find that what is there is more than enough. More than enough. The way Ruth went home that evening with far more than she expected. The way Naomi said, "Where did you glean today? Pick up what is left. Carry it forward. Tonight, the field is this room, this quiet, this rest. This time is given back to you at the end of a long day. This is grain. Receive it. All of it. Sleep well tonight. The field is full of what you need. You only have to bend down and take it." The quality of the book of Ruth that I find most remarkable is this. God is barely mentioned. He appears at the edges. He is referenced. The Lord repay you. The Lord bless you. The Lord gave her conception. But he doesn't speak. He doesn't appear. He doesn't send an angel or part a sea or speak from a burning bush. He works through people, through Ruth's loyalty, through Boaz's kindness, through the customs of a culture that made space for the widow and the stranger at the edges of the harvest, through the woman who happened to come to the right field, through the man who happened to look up and ask who she was, through the elders who sat at the gate, through the nearer Redeemer who walked away. Through all of it, ordinary people making choices, and in those choices, the invisible hand was steering the story toward what it was always going to be. This is how God most often works in the world. Not with spectacle, not with an announcement, through the ordinary choices of ordinary people, through the one who stays when they could go, through the one who looks up when they could look away, through the customs and the laws that create space for the vulnerable, through the grain deliberately left at the edges, through people, through you, when you choose to stay, when you look up and notice someone who needs to be noticed, when you leave something at the edges for whoever will come and need it. You are in this story, not as an observer, as a participant. The invisible hand works through you as much as it worked through Ruth and Boaz. Your kindness is part of the arrangement. Your loyalty changes things. Your noticing matters. You are in the story, and the story is being written, even tonight, even in sleep. The arrangement continues. The provision is real. The hand is working, and it is working through the ordinary choices of ordinary people, including you, who simply show up, who simply stay, who simply bend down and pick up what is there. Rest now, so you can show up tomorrow. The field is waiting, and the grain has been left. A prayer for the night of Ruth and Naomi. Lord, you are the God of the ordinary days, not just the parted seas and the burning bushes. The ordinary days, the field of harvest, the edges of things, that happen to moments that turn out to have been arranged. Tonight, we bring you what we have, which may feel like gleaning, like picking up what's left, like making do with the edges of what others have discarded. But you are the God who multiplies gleaning, who turns the edges into abundance, who sends the one who needs the grain to the right field without telling her. Why that field rather than any other? You are that God. For the person tonight who is in the Naomi season, the season of loss, of empty, of having renamed themselves something bitter because the sweetness feels very far away. Lord, be the patient God, the one who doesn't rebuke the honest grief, the one who is already working in the field while the grief is still raw. Be the Ruth, the unexpected companion who stays when they could go, the one who clings when leaving is reasonable, the one who says where you go, I will go, and means it beyond what the words can hold. Send them that, or remind them of the one they already have. For the person tonight who is in the Ruth season, far from where they came from, doing the faithful ordinary work without knowing what it's building toward. Lord, be the Boaz, be the one who looks up, who notices, who says, I have heard what you have done. I see your faithfulness. May you be fully rewarded under whose wings you have come to take refuge. Let them feel seen, not for their performance, for their faithfulness, for the one who stayed, for the ordinary days, for the bending down and picking up, for going back to the same field. See them. And for Naomi, at the end of the story, the one holding the child she didn't know was coming, the one who went from empty to this. Lord, do that. Do that thing that only you do. The new thing was placed in the space of the old loss. The child in the arms of the one who thought there was nothing left. The restoration that doesn't undo what was lost but places beside it something new. Something living. Something that carries the future in its small hands. Do that. For whoever needs it. For all of us who need it. In whatever form it takes. In whatever field it comes from. By whatever happened to brings it. Do that. Amen. Sleep now. The prayer is heard. The field is full. The arrangement is real. And the morning is coming. Come back to the field one final time. The early morning field. The light is just arriving. The grain heavy and still. The air cools before the day has warmed into itself. Ruth is there. You can see her from a little distance. A figure at the edges of the harvest. Bending and rising. Bending and rising. Unhurried. Methodical. Fully present in the task of the moment without being burdened by the full weight of everything the task represents. Just picking up what is there, one handful at a time. She doesn't know yet what the day will bring. She doesn't know that Boaz will come to the field, that he will notice her, that his workers will leave extra grain in her path. She doesn't know the shape of the story she's in. She only knows this. There is grain at the edges, and she can pick it up, one handful at a time. This is a picture of faithful living that is worth carrying into sleep. Not the grand gesture, not the dramatic moment, the bending down, the picking up, the carrying forward, going back tomorrow and doing it again, one handful at a time. Your life has edges, places where provision has been left that you might not have expected, moments of grace that came from unexpected directions, people who showed up in ways you didn't arrange, doors that opened when you weren't looking at them, one handful at a time. Receive what is there. Be grateful for what was left. Trust the field. Trust the one who owns the field. Trust the happens to of tomorrow. And sleep tonight. Deeply. The field is patient. The grain will be there in the morning. And you will go. And you will bend down. And you will find more than you expected. You always do, because the arrangement is real, because the wings are real, because the kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead, because the Redeemer is in the story, because the story always knows where it is going, even when you cannot see it from the middle of it. Sleep now. Ruth is in the field. Naomi is at home. The child will come. The line will continue. All the way to Bethlehem. All the way to the manger. All the way to everything. And you are in the story. And the story is good. And the morning is coming. Good night, dear friend. Good night. Where you go, you are not alone. The wings are real, and you are under them. Let me tell you more about Naomi. Before the losses, before Moab, before any of it, Bethlehem in the time of the judges was not a grand city, not a capital, not a place of particular importance in the political sense, a small city in the hill country of Judah. Fields, families, the ordinary rhythms of agricultural life, planting and harvest, rain and drought, the slow turn of seasons. Naomi had grown up in that rhythm, had known the particular smell of Bethlehem in harvest season, the cut grain, the dust, the sweetness of bread made from this year's barley, had known the names of the families, the way small communities know each other, the kind of knowing that comes from generations of proximity. She had married Elimelech, a man of standing, a man with land, a man whose name meant my God is king, a man she had probably known since childhood. The kind of marriage that happens in small communities, where everyone knows everyone, and the choosing feels less like chance than like the natural completion of something already present. She had her sons, her home, the life she had been prepared for, and then the famine that emptied the storehouses, that made the familiar fields look different, that turned the rhythm of harvest into the anxiety of scarcity. And Elimelech made a decision. We are going to Moab. Naomi followed. She always followed. This was the shape of her life. The woman behind the decisions of the men she loved. Following her husband to Moab. Following grief when it took her sons. Following, eventually, the deep pull of home when everything else was gone. She was not a passive woman. The book is too short to give us much of her interior life. But what we have suggests someone with strong feelings and stronger loyalties. The grief that renamed her, the love for her daughters-in-law, who tried to send them away for their own good, the wisdom that saw Boaz's potential before Ruth did. She was fully present, fully engaged, but following. The shape of her life was following. And then she came home, and what she found when she arrived, what the story is slowly, quietly reveals, is that the following had not been wasted. Every step that looked like being led rather than leading, every Moab that looked like exile, every loss looked like the end. All of it had been part of a path that ended, not where she expected, not where she would have chosen, but somewhere good, somewhere with a child on her lap. The following was not a failure. It was the story. Tonight, if the shape of your life has felt more like following than leading, more like being carried than choosing, more like the current taking you than you steering, this is for you. The following is not a failure. It is the story, and the story knows where it's going. Even when you can't see the destination from the middle of the following, rest in that. Let the current carry you tonight, into sleep, into the rest that the night was made for. The path is real, and it ends somewhere good. The road between Moab and Bethlehem. Let's walk it again, slower this time. Two women on an ancient road. The landscape of this region, rocky, hilly, the limestone hills of Judah, that have been the same hills for 10,000 years. The particular color of them in the afternoon light, pale gold, almost white. The kind of landscape that makes you feel small in a way that is peaceful rather than frightening. They walked. We don't know if they talked much on that road. What would they have said? Naomi's grief was still fresh. The decision to go home had been made, but the making of the decision doesn't resolve the grief that preceded it. She was still a woman who had lost her husband and both her sons. She was still someone who didn't know what awaited her in Bethlehem. She was still someone who had left one life behind and hadn't yet arrived at the next one. And Ruth was still someone who had left her homeland. Who had said, "Where you go, I will go," and was now walking through the consequences of that saying. The road stretches ahead into unfamiliar terrain. The homeland behind her, growing smaller. Two women in the in-between. The in-between has its own quality. Not the leaving. That is already done. Not the arriving. That hasn't happened yet. The in-between. The road. The miles between what was and what will be. Most of life is in the in-between. Most of life is the road rather than the leaving or the arriving. And the road has its own gifts. If you can receive them, the road forces you to slow down. You can only walk as fast as you can walk. The terrain demands your attention. 1 foot, and then the next. The miles accumulated one step at a time. The road gives you company. Two women on a road. Even in silence, you are not alone. The shared direction, the shared horizon, the shared step-by-step. The road gives you sky. Out in the open, between cities, between the shelter of walls, the sky is enormous, especially at night, especially on a clear night in the hill country of Judah, where there is no competing light for miles. The stars on that road. Naomi probably knew those stars from childhood, could name them, maybe, could orient by them. And Ruth, looking up at a sky that was different from Moab's sky by barely anything, the same stars in the same positions, was finding her first orientation points in an unfamiliar world. The stars, the same ones above you tonight, above your ceiling, above the clouds, burning with the same light they burned with over the road between Moab and Bethlehem. The same, constant, faithful, patient. Look up at them tonight, even with your eyes closed, even in imagination. The stars that were above Naomi's road are above you. The same faithfulness that carried those two women through the in-between is carrying you through yours. The road has an arrival. It always has an arrival. Sleep tonight on the road, in the good company of whatever is walking beside you, under the stars that have always been there, and trust the arrival. It is coming, one step at a time. The kindness of Boaz. I want to stay with it, because it is one of the most fully depicted acts of kindness in the whole Bible. Not a dramatic gesture, not a grand sacrifice, but a series of small, specific, deliberate attentions. He noticed her in a field of workers. He saw her, asked about her, found out her story. He spoke to her directly, personally, not through intermediaries. He went to where she was and spoke. He told her to stay, not to go to another field, to drink from his water when she was thirsty. He made her included in something that could easily have been exclusive. He told his workers to leave extra grain, deliberately, invisibly, so that she would find abundance without knowing it was arranged, so that the gift wouldn't feel like charity. He invited her to eat with his workers at mealtime. Come here, he said, and eat some bread and dip your morsel in the wine. And she sat beside the reapers, and she ate, and was satisfied, and he passed to her roasted grain, and she ate until she was satisfied, with some left over. She ate until she was satisfied, with some left over. In a season of gleaning, in a season of just enough, she ate until she was satisfied and had some left over. This is what kindness does at its fullest. Not just addresses the immediate need, satisfies, and leaves something over, more than enough. And at the end of the day, she beat out what she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. An ephah, a significant amount, far more than a normal day's gleaning would produce. Naomi, when she saw it, was startled. Who are you? Where did you go? Who noticed you? Because the amount of what Ruth brought home was evidence. Evidence that something was happening that went beyond Ruth's own effort. That someone had arranged for this. That the field had been more generous than fields normally are. The evidence of grace is often the surplus. More than you expected. The amount that doesn't add up if you're only counting your own effort. Where did you glean today? Tonight? Where did you receive more than you accounted for? what was left at the edges of your ordinary day that, if you looked carefully, was more than you expected? The surplus, the evidence of a kindness that was arranged before you arrived. Let it be received tonight, all of it, with thankfulness, with the open hands of someone who knows that what they carry home is more than what they earned. Sleep and wake tomorrow to a new field and new grain and another surplus waiting to be found. The threshing floor at night. This is one of the most atmospheric moments in the whole book. The threshing floor was the place where grain was separated from chaff, winnowed by the evening breeze that came reliably in that part of the world. The workers throwing the grain into the air, and the wind carried away what was light and useless, leaving what was heavy and real. Good things are separated from unnecessary things by wind at night, after eating and the drinking and the lying down. Boaz at the end of the grain heap, and Ruth came in the dark, quietly, and lying down at his feet. And in the middle of the night, he was startled and turned over, and there was a woman at his feet. Who are you? I am Ruth, your servant. Spread your wings over me. There is a vulnerability in this scene that deserves to be held quietly. Two people in the dark at a threshing floor, being honest with each other in a way that daylight and crowds don't always allow. The darkness can do that. It removes the performance, strips away the appearance of having things under control, leaves only what is real, the asking, the offering, the choosing. Who are you? I am Ruth. Not her resume, not her background, not her qualifications. I am Ruth. This is who I am. This is what I need. This is what I am asking for. Spread your wings over me. And Boaz, may you be blessed. Your kindness is greater than your first kindness. He received her in the dark at the threshing floor, where grain is separated from chaff by the wind. Tonight, in the dark, in the quiet, there is something similar available. The performance can be set aside. The appearance of having it together can be set aside. And what is real can be what it is. Who are you? Tonight, in this room, in this dark, you are simply yourself. Tired, perhaps. Hoping, perhaps. Afraid of some things, and grateful for others. Missing something or someone. Holding something or someone close. You are simply yourself, and the wings are spread over whoever you are tonight. exactly as you are. The covering is real. The refuge is real. You don't have to be anything other than yourself to receive it. I am Ruth. Spread your wings over me. Done. Already. The wings are there. Sleep beneath them. All the way. Into the dark. Into the rest. Into the morning that is coming. The women of Bethlehem. They were there at the beginning, stirring when Naomi arrived. Is this Naomi? And they were there at the end, gathered around the child. Blessed be the Lord. They witnessed the whole arc of it, the arrival in grief, the months of quiet gleaning, the resolution at the gate, the marriage, the birth. They saw it all, and their final word over Naomi was not about her loss. It was about Ruth, your daughter-in-law, who loves you, who is more to you than 7 sons, more than 7 sons, more than complete, more than anything. Because of the one who stayed, there are people in your life who have been there for the whole arc, who saw you in the grief and saw you in the ordinary days, and will see you in the restoration, who have witnessed the whole thing, or as much of it as one person can witness of another's life. The ones who have seen you at your emptiest, and who are still here tonight. Before you sleep, let those people be named in your heart, not out loud, just named. The ones who have been there for the ark, the ones whose presence has been like Ruth's presence, faithful, consistent, not requiring you to be anything other than what you are. Name them and be grateful, and know that their faithfulness, like Ruth's, is part of the arrangement, part of the invisible working of the kindness that does not forsake the living or the dead. They are there because they were led there. The way Ruth happened to come to Boaz's field happened to, but not by accident. Name them and sleep in the gratitude that holds what is good, and let the night hold you the way the women of Bethlehem held the whole story, with witness, the harvest. Let's stay in it a while longer. Barley harvest in ancient Bethlehem would have lasted several weeks, not one day, not one dramatic gathering. Weeks of daily work, weeks of the same field, the same motions, the same rhythm of bending and straightening, collecting and carrying. Ruth was there every day, every single day, and Boaz's workers, following his instruction, left grain for her every single day. There was an arrangement in place, a daily arrangement. New grain every morning, new surplus, every evening, daily. This is how provision works in real life. Not one dramatic delivery that covers everything forever. Daily, the manna of it, the everyday quality of what sustains us, given fresh, every morning, exactly enough for this day. Ruth didn't get a month's worth of grain on the first day, and then rest. She went back every morning, and the provision was there, fresh, real, enough. This is the shape of trust. Not the trust of someone who has secured the future so thoroughly that daily dependence is no longer necessary. The trust of someone who goes to the field each morning because they have learned, through experience, through the accumulated evidence of yesterday and the day before, that what they need will be there. It will be there. It always is. Your mornings are like Ruth's mornings in this way. Each one is going back to the field. Each one trusts that the provision is there. And each one, when you bend down and look, finding that it is more than you expected, enough, and some left over. Go to the field tomorrow. Whatever your field is, the provision is there. It has always been there. Sleep now, and wake to it. Something about loyalty. Ruth's loyalty is the central thread of this whole story. It is mentioned by Boaz. It is praised by the women of Bethlehem. It is the quality that shapes every decision she makes from the moment she says, "Where you go, I will go." But loyalty is a quiet thing. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't require an audience. It shows up in the ordinary moments. Going to the field daily, the coming home to Naomi, the bringing of the grain was more than enough. The listening, the staying, the not going back when going back would have been the reasonable choice. Ruth's loyalty was not rewarded. It was lived, day by day, in the ordinary texture of daily faithfulness. And yet, it was fully seen. Boaz saw it. The women of Bethlehem saw it. And if we believe the story, God saw it from the very beginning and arranged the field and the harvest and the happen to and everything else in response to it. Your loyalty is seen, the faithfulness that no one applauds, because no one is watching, the showing up that gets no recognition, because it's simply expected, the daily caring for someone who can't care back, the staying when going would be easier. Where you go, I will go, said in the language of presence rather than words, the language of arriving again, of not disappearing when things got hard, of choosing the person again when the choice could have been otherwise. It is seen, not by the crowd, by the one who watched Ruth in the field, who said to Boaz, "This is what she has done. This is who she is," who arranged the surplus in response to the faithfulness. Your faithfulness is seen, and it is arranging things you can't yet see. Rest in that tonight. The loyalty is not wasted. It never is. It is being held and honored and responded to in ways that may not be visible yet, but are real. Sleep and trust the arrangement. Naomi is calling herself Mara. I keep coming back to this moment because I think it is one of the most important in the whole book. She could have pretended. She could have arrived back in Bethlehem and said, "Yes, it's me, Naomi, and things have been hard, but I'm doing fine." She could have managed the presentation, could have arranged her grief into a more acceptable shape. She didn't. She said, "Call me bitter, because the Almighty has dealt bitterly with me." This is honest in a way that makes most people uncomfortable, because we are not sure what to do with faith that admits to feeling wronged by God, with theology that puts the pain right alongside the belief, without resolving the tension between them. Naomi did not resolve the tension. She held it. I believe, and I am hurt. Both things at the same time, without the hurt erasing the belief, or the belief erasing the hurt. Call me Mara. And then, within the same story, within the same book, before the same community, the restoration came. The same Naomi, who called herself bitter, became the woman who held a child on her lap. The same community that witnessed the grief, witnessed the restoration. Both things are in the story. Both things are true. And the movement from one to the other was not because Naomi stopped being honest about the grief. It was not because she had enough faith to earn the restoration. It was the arrangement, the invisible working, the field and the grain, and the happened to, and the man who looked up. God was working through the ordinary, while Naomi was still honest about her pain. He didn't require her to stop hurting before he arranged for her healing. He worked in the middle of the honest grief. He works in the middle of yours. Tonight, whatever honest thing you are carrying, you do not have to resolve it. Before you can receive the care of this night, you don't have to pretend. You don't have to have it together. You can call yourself Mara and still be held and still have the arrangement working for you. Even now, even in the dark, even in the honest words, he works. Rest in that. The pretending can rest tonight. only what is real needs to be here. And what is real, including the hurt, including the honest grief, is held. The body settling. You've been lying here a while now. The story has been moving through you. Naomi and Ruth and Boaz and the field and the threshing floor and the child and the women of Bethlehem. All of it settling in, not as information to analyze, as company, as the kind of presence that stories provide when they are old enough and true enough. The sense of being accompanied by something larger than your own particular night, connected to a long thread of human faithfulness and human grief and human restoration that stretches back thousands of years and includes you. You are in that thread. Your story has the same shape as theirs. The grief that came without announcement. The road walked between what was and what will be. The field that turned out to be the right field. The one who stayed when they could have gone. The arrangement that was working while you couldn't see it. The child on the lap of the one who thought she was empty. Your story has this shape. Even now. Even in the parts that look like Moab. Even in the parts that look empty. The shape is the same. And the shape ends in Bethlehem. In harvest. In a child on a lap. In women gathering to say, blessed, blessed. That ending is real. It is in your story. Even if you can't see it from the middle of it, let your body receive that tonight. Let the shoulders drop with it. Let the jaw release with it. Let the hands open with it. You are in a story that ends well. Not because the losses aren't real. They are real. Not because the grief isn't real. It is real. But because the one who is writing it has never, not once in all of history, abandoned a story he started. He finishes what he begins. Your story is being finished. And it ends in harvest. And a child on a lap. And women gathering to say, blessed. Sleep in that. All the way. Into the deep. Into the rest that comes when you know. Really know, in the place below the noise of the mind, that the story is good, and it is yours, and it is being written, and it ends well. One last walk through the story, the slowest one, Moab, a family that left home for survival. A woman who lost everything and came back empty. A young woman who could have gone back and didn't. Where you go, I will go. The road between Moab and Bethlehem. 2 women, 50 miles, one step at a time. The arrival. The whole town is stirring. Is this Naomi? Call me Mara. The harvest begins. Ruth is going to the field. The happen to. The right field. Boaz is looking up. Who is that young woman? The telling of the story. The blessing. Stay in my field. Drink from my water. At mealtime, come here and eat. She ate until she was satisfied, with some left over. The evening, the surplus is carried home. Naomi startled. Where did you glean today? The name, Boaz. The recognition, the beginning of believing again. The threshing floor, the dark. Who are you? I am Ruth. Spread your wings over me. The gate, the elders, the nearer Redeemer. I cannot. Boaz, I will. The marriage. The Lord gave her conception. A son. Obed. Naomi is holding him. The women gathering. Blessed be the Lord, your daughter-in-law who loves you. More than 7 sons. The child on her lap. The beginning of everything. The father of Jesse. The father of David. The ancestor of the one who would be born in this same Bethlehem, in a field like this one, in a night like this one, under stars like these. The story goes forward through the ordinary faithful days, through the bending down and the picking up, through staying when leaving was possible, through the happened to and the arranged for, and the morning after the night of honest grief. All of it, yours, tonight. Sleep. Where you go, you are not alone. The wings are real. The field is full. The arrangement is working. And the story ends well. Good night, dear friend. Good night. The harvest is coming, and you will be there to receive it. There is something worth saying about the in-between. Not the Moab of before, not the Bethlehem of after. The road. The road is undervalued in most tellings of this story. People want to get from the loss to the restoration as quickly as possible. Skip past the walking. Get to the field. Get to Boaz. Get to the child. But the road matters. The 50 miles between Moab and Bethlehem were not incidental to the story. They were part of it. They were where Ruth said her yes. Not just once, at the moment of decision, but mile after mile. The yes of the first morning, and then the yes of the second morning, and the yes of every step when she could have turned around. Every mile was a choice. Where you go, I will go. Step. Where you go, I will go. Step. Where you go, I will go. Step. The loyalty is not just in the words. It is in the steps, in the accumulated miles between the saying and the arriving. Your road has accumulated miles too. The steps you have taken in the direction of what matters to you. The mornings you have gotten up and continued even when continuing felt costly. The days you have shown up for someone who needed you to show up. The quiet choices, unannounced, unwitnessed, unrewarded in any visible way. To keep going in the direction you said you would go. Those miles, they are real. They are counted. Even when they don't feel like they're adding up to anything, they are adding up. The road has a destination, and every step you've taken in the direction of faithfulness, of loyalty, of love, those steps have been moving you toward it. You are further along than you know, and the destination is real. Rest tonight knowing that. The road is real. The destination is real. And you are on the road. One step, and the next, and the next, all the way to harvest. Sleep now. The road is still there when you wake, and you will continue, one faithful day at a time. The wings. This image comes twice in the book of Ruth. First, when Boaz says to Ruth, "May the Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." And then when Ruth says to Boaz, "Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer," the same image, used by both of them, both speaking of refuge, both speaking of covering, both speaking of the specific kind of protection that comes not from walls or weapons, but from the presence of something large and strong that bends down over what is small and vulnerable. Wings. In Psalm 91, He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. In Psalm 57, I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings. In Psalm 61, let me take refuge under the shelter of your wings. The image is ancient and persistent because it speaks to something that every human heart has always known it needs. Not just protection in the general sense. Covering. The specific. Clothes. Personal covering of being under wings. Not standing behind a wall. Under wings. The difference is intimacy. A wall keeps something away. Wings draw something close. Under wings, you are close. You are held. You are not just protected but gathered in. Tonight, this is where you are. not standing behind a wall, hoping the wall holds, under wings, gathered in, close, the same wings that covered Ruth in the foreign field cover you in this room. The same God who bent down over a young Moabite widow in a barley field bends down over you tonight, with the same covering, with the same closeness, with the same specific, personal. You are known attention. You are under the wings. Let that be the last image your mind holds before sleep takes you. Not the problems, not the uncertainties, not the things that are still unresolved. The wings, above you, around you, the covering that is real, the refuge that is real, the closeness of a God who bends down. Sleep under the wings, all the way, into the deep rest, into the genuine, rebuilding, restoring sleep, the gleaning. One more time. The practice of gleaning was written into the law. Leviticus and Deuteronomy both describe it. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap your field right up to its edge, and you shall not strip your vineyard bare. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner, for the poor and for the sojourner. Ruth was both. And the law said, there is something here for you, not charity, not the giving of something extra out of the abundance of the giver, something built into the system, something that said, the harvest was never only for those who owned the field. The edges always belong to someone else. The edges of abundance are built for those who need them. This is a vision of how the world is supposed to work, where abundance is not hoarded but designed with edges. Space built in for the ones who come with nothing but their hands, and their willingness to bend down and pick up. The edges are there. In every season of abundance, the edges are there. Tonight, what are the edges in your life? The places where more has been given than you claimed. The corners of your days that held something good that you may have walked past. The provisions that were left not by accident but by design, built into the structure of things, waiting for you to come and find them. The quiet moment in the morning before the day demands your attention. The unexpected kindness from someone who owed you nothing. The beauty that arrived unrequested. The way light fell on something. The way a piece of music found you when you needed it. The way a conversation went somewhere neither person expected. The edges, they are there. Go back to them in your memory tonight. Find one. Hold it. Let it be what you carry into sleep. The edge of today's abundance. Something that was left for you. Something that was there because the field has always had edges. And the edges have always been yours. Sleep with that in your hands. Open hands, receiving. Good night. The body scan, one final time, before the silence, before the sleep takes you all the way. Top of the head, releasing. The forehead, smooth. The eyes, resting. The jaw, soft. The space in the mouth where tension hides, released. The neck, the shoulders. Drop them now, further, all the way down. The arms, the hands, open, empty, not holding. The chest, rising, falling. The breath doing what it has always done, faithfully, without your supervision. The belly, soft, moving freely. The back, released into what is beneath it. The hips, the legs, the feet, every part of you, from the crown of the head to the soles of the feet, released. Ruth, at the end of the day, set down what she had gathered. At the end of this day, you set down what you have gathered. The weights, the worries, the things you were holding so carefully all day. Set them down, right here. They will be here in the morning if you need them. But tonight, set them down and be the woman at the threshing floor. Simply yourself, in the dark, asking for the covering of the wings. And the wings are spread, and you are covered, and the rest is real, and the morning is coming. Sleep under the wings, all the way, into the deep, into the genuine, restoring, rebuilding sleep, where the arrangement continues while you rest, where the field is being prepared for morning, where the kindness that does not forsake the living, or the dead continues its patient, invisible all-night work. Let me tell you about Obed, the child. He was born at the end of the story, or what feels like the end, the resolution, the restoration, the child on Naomi's lap. But Obed was also a beginning. His name, servant, was given by the women of the neighborhood, not by his parents. The community named him, claimed him as their own. This child born to a Moabite woman and a Bethlehemite man. This child of two worlds and two traditions. This child of grief and loyalty and harvest and kindness. The community held him and named him servant. He would grow up in Bethlehem, would learn the fields, would know the rhythm of harvest that his grandmother had grown up with. and that his mother had come to learn. He would carry the story, though he wouldn't know all of it, not all of what it cost, not all of what led to his being here. Children rarely know the full weight of what was paid for their existence. They don't need to. They only need to grow. And Obed grew, and had Jesse, and Jesse had sons, and one of those sons, the youngest, the shepherd, the one who was out in the field with the sheep when Samuel came looking, one of those sons was David, who would write the Psalms, including Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. The same fields, the same Bethlehem, the same hills, the shepherd who would become a king, writing about a God who leads beside still waters, writing from the same landscape his great-grandmother had gleaned in. Maybe the same field, maybe the same edges. The kindness flows through time. The faithfulness flows through generations. What Ruth did in the field of Boaz eventually produced the shepherd poet who wrote the most comforting words in all of Scripture. Everything connected. Everything flowing from faithfulness. Everything flowing from loyalty. From the where you go I will go of one woman on a road. Your faithfulness flows forward too, in ways you will not see, toward people who are not yet born, through generations that will carry what you did. The choice to stay, the daily showing up, the bending down and picking up, even when they don't know that's what they're carrying. Your faithfulness flows forward. It always does. It always has. Rest in that tonight. The kindness continues. The loyalty continues. Beyond what you can see. Beyond what you can measure. Into generations. Into Bethlehem. Into everything. Sleep. The story continues in the morning. And it is good. A second prayer. For the late hour, for whoever is still awake. Lord, you are the God of the ordinary field, not just of the parted sea and the burning bush, of the field, of the harvest, of the edges left for the ones who come with nothing but their hands and their willingness to bend down. Tonight we come to the field. Some of us are Naomi, emptied out, renamed by loss, looking at what's left and calling it nothing, even when Ruth is standing right beside us. Lord, help us count what we still have. Help us see the Ruth beside us, the one who stayed, the one who clung, the one whose presence is worth more than 7 sons, and receive them as the gift they are. Some of us are Ruth, in a foreign field, far from where we came from, doing the faithful daily work without knowing what it's building toward. Lord, let us happen to the right field, Let the invisible steering be real. Let the ground we end up on turn out to be the ground that was arranged for us. Let the work of these ordinary days be what it is. The story, not just the waiting room for it. And some of us are standing at the edges with nothing but our hands and our willingness to bend down and our belief, fragile, honest, still there despite everything, that the field has edges, and the edges are for us, and the arrangement is real. Lord, let us find the surplus. Let the morning reveal more than we expected. Let the evening weight of what we carry home surprise us. And let Naomi be there, startled and asking, "Where did you glean today?" Let there be someone to come home to, someone to show the day's harvest, someone who is still there. Be all of this, as you have always been all of this, the God of the wings and the field, and the threshing floor in the dark, and the child on the lap of the one who thought she was empty. Be that God tonight, for everyone who needs it, which is all of us, in some form, in some corner of our lives, all of us. Amen. Sleep now. The prayer is heard. The wings are real. The field is full. And by morning, the surplus, already being arranged. The silence is very close now. You can feel it. The way thoughts are coming less frequently. The way the gaps between them are longer. The way the story has settled into you and become less like something you are listening to and more like the atmosphere around you. The field, the wings, the road, the child, all of it settled in. Naomi and Ruth are in this room with you tonight, not as ghosts, as presences. The way old faithful stories carry the presence of the people in them, something of their reality persisting across time, available to whoever comes to the story with their own need. Naomi, who was honest about her grief. Ruth, who stayed anyway. Boaz, who looked up. The women of Bethlehem, who witnessed the whole ark. And the child who carries everything forward. They are in this room. And so is the one who arranged the field, who left the grain at the edges, who steered the happen to, who covered with wings, who restored what seemed empty. All of it here, in this dark, in this quiet, in this breath. Let the breath be slow. In, out, in, out. The field is calm. The harvest is in. The night is held. And you are held too, under the wings, in the dark, on your way to the morning that is already being prepared. One breath, and the next, and the next. Sleep. Good night. Where you go, you are not alone. The wings are real, and the story is good, and the morning is coming. Good night, dear friend. Good night. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep in the arms of the one who arranged the field and left the grain at the edges and said, "This is for you. All of this is for you. Good night."